can I perhaps interest you in a chainsaw? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video, and our deck list from today comes all the way from Bavaria, Germany. So oh no, I don't know how to do the time zone. All right, so we're releasing at 11 Eastern. Okay, so I think that's like 2 p.m. German time, so I think it's still Guten Tag. So Guten Tag to my German friends, or if I messed up the time zone, insert appropriate greeting. So, here's what we're working with today. This is a red-white death and taxes style deck. We have the Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride, Ajani Nakatl Pariah, sort of trifecta, triumvirate that we have been seeing recently in a lot of decks in both Legacy and Modern. It is just a very good core for a deck list. And we are going to want to have a red card, or preferably multiple decent red cards in this deck to make the 0 ability of this backside of Ajani better. Because you get to deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control to any target if you do control another red card. And so the idea is that Broadside can be this other card. I am assuming that I'm supposed to read this as Steph. Their deck list, they called their deck list like Stoneforge Bombardiers. The idea being that Stoneforge Mystic is central to the deck because you can use Stoneforge to get pre-war formal wear, and then you can throw things with Broadside and bring them back with your pre-war formal wear that you got from Stoneforge Mystic. And a lot of times early on in the game, you would like to, almost intentionally destroy one of your creatures to get an early Planeswalker. And as we've seen with this and the new Tamiyo, getting a Planeswalker sort of ahead of rate, pretty good thing. Definitely some modern-inspired vibes here with Phlage, Titan of Fire's Fury, which doesn't see too much play in Legacy, but occasionally does pop up in some lists. And then we have a sleeper card from Duskmourn, Chainsaw. So when it enters, it lightning bolts a creature, and whenever a creature dies, you get a rev counter on your Chainsaw. Costs 3 mana to equip this, and the equipped creature gets plus X plus O, where X is the number of rev counters on Chainsaw. So if you are exiling creatures specifically with Swords to Plowshares and Solitude, you don't get a lot of Chainsaw-based synergy. But if you are, attacking with a bunch of cats and your opponent is trading creatures in combat, this can turn into a little bit of late game reach, maybe through Menace with Broadside, or maybe you gain a whole bunch of life by throwing it onto a Solitude. We are an Aether Vial deck. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I don't think Aether Vial is a good Magic card anymore, specifically within the confines of current Legacy. Current Legacy is just so incredibly combo heavy that I don't really think you have the time anymore to just let this tick up. I would love to be proven wrong and see Aether Vial feel good, but in looking at deck lists from places like the recent Eternal Weekend events, there is not a lot of Aether Vial floating around. The red in this deck list does give us some relatively powerful sideboard options, such as Meltdown or Magus of the Moon, Red Elemental Blasts. But the thing that really catches my eye from this sideboard here is Split Up, a 3-mana sorcery that lets you either destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. And this isn't literally a 3-mana one-sided board wipe, but it can be pretty close to that in a lot of situations. And this is in the slot of things like Wrath of the Skies or Battle of the Bottom, Bywater, Battle at Bywater, whatever exactly it is called. That you sometimes see in these styles of lists. With that being said here, I think we're just going to hop directly into the matches here. Folks, should you need some Magic cards, maybe because you're going to MagicCon Chicago, please consider supporting my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. They support me, why not support them? Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order, and you can do pickup on site at places like MagicCon Chicago or other large events. Order online, skip all the lines and the hassle of hunting down all the cards that you need on site. Let's go chainsaw some people, huh? Okay. Do I keep the one lander that just goes Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride with Solitude and Swords to Plowshares backup? If my opponent is playing Goblins, this is probably perfectly reasonable, and if my opponent is playing Doomsday, I am dead. I think if my opponent is playing Doomsday, I'm just dead regardless, right? I just don't beat that. Yeah, I just don't think I beat that. So I think I keep this hand. Mountain. Fuck. Cabal. Oh, it's targeting themselves. Okay. So not Doomsday, but probably a Dredge deck. Yep. So that's 2 Narcomoebas in hand to start this off, though. So that's definitely a little awkward. So let's just see how bad the Dredge is. 6 cards in graveyard with another Stinkweed Imp. Bad news for Phil fans. So this requires Threshold to activate. So what my opponent can do here is sack LED, get mana for Faithless Looting, flashback Faithless Looting first for a couple of different dredges, and then activate Cephalid Coliseum. So we have, okay, or vice versa. So basically, this is bad. I have a Solitude that I can evoke to clear Bridge from Below. That's the good news here. Let's dismiss this hand. Okay, bridge. My opponent gets a Narcomoeba. I don't have priority to Solitude this yet, unfortunately. So now my opponent puts this onto the stack, targeting me. There's now 3 Bridge from Below triggers. I think I just clear these bridges. So Bridge from Below has what is called an intervening if clause. So if I lose a creature, and we're just going to choose no targets for this. We can't target it itself to gain some life. Where if we get rid of Bridge from Below in the middle of this, these initial triggers are not actually going to resolve. So the stack is going to clear. My opponent will get to Cabal Therapy me, but they have no creatures in play. And we did pick up an energy from Guide of Souls here. Ocelot Pride is a very good name. That is probably what I would have named from their side of the battlefield. I think Swords to Plowshares is also perfectly reasonable as a name. So I can Stoneforge Mystic for Lion Sash and potentially start eating the graveyard. Or I can just play Ajani. I could also hold up Swords to Plowshares. I don't think I'd do that, though. The upside of playing Ajani is that I produce a lot of power and can attack for 3 immediately. The Stoneforge just doesn't do a lot. Like, there's already a ton of targets in graveyard. I've cleared most of the Bridge from Belows. It does a lot if this game lasts a little longer. There's just like a Cabal Therapy in graveyard, though. So a lot of times this doesn't actually accomplish anything. Oh fuck, there was an Icarid. Fuck, I just totally missed that. I was supposed to Swords of Plowshares that so my opponent can't Cabal Therapy. I fucked that up. It's not the end of the world, but I can get double Cabal Therapy this turn. Lose Lion Sash, lose Swords to Plowshares. And it was avoidable to lose both. Okay, my opponent has named Swords, and now will presumably name Lion Sash. Alright. That's lucky. Was there one Icarid? There's one Icarid. I'll plan on swordsing that. A little awkward because like this attack telegraph, like not using the 2 mana to play the Ajani that my opponent knows about kind of telegraphs the fact that I do have Swords to Plowshares. I also need a draw step stop. Send them. 2 damage. Oh, there are 2 Icarids. I will still Swords to Plowshares one of them. I guess I can do it in draw step. Shouldn't be any harm there. Alright, so another Bridge from Below. Another Icarid. I'll take this out. There's another Cabal Therapy that can trade with Ajani and create a zombie. Need to remove that last Bridge from Below if possible. Otherwise, I need a plan for beating the 8/8 Hogak. I don't know that I'm on track to beat that. That's a Surveil land. Attacks are no longer good. I'm an energy short of doing Guide of Souls things. My opponent gets Hogak this turn. 5 cards remaining in library. Yeah, I think I punted this one by missing that a Hogak was... Sorry, an Icarid was in graveyard the first time. Yep. Now my opponent's going to end up sacrificing these. We'll get an Elegant Parlor to try to find an answer. That's fantastic. Hello, Moto. Top. And then my opponent converts those into zombies. Alright, so my opponent can keep returning these Icarids. I don't think I need two Swords of Plowshares immediately or anything. Okay. So, I can just let one of these die, and then these don't produce additional zombies. I'm always just Swords to Plowsharing the Hogak. That's happening every single time. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Icarids can keep coming back. I think I'm going to double block one of these. I lose one creature. I kill a zombie. Bridge from Belows are gone. I don't give my opponent additional zombies immediately. And then maybe we deal with this. Oh no. Oh, okay. It's just a 1/1. So my opponent loses these Icarids. Broadside. Sure. That's just a blocker at this point. We're just trying to stall. Now my opponent is on a finite number of times that they can return Icarids. They can't get any more zombies. So this would be taking 5 and eliminating 1 permanent card. That's probably about the best I can do here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm hoping to draw, though. Like, I think I am coming up just short of stabilizing. So I can trade with this zombie. Takes 7. Yeah, there's still Thug, Imp, Imp. Yeah, I come up just short here. I wonder if I punted this one by not realizing Icarid was in graveyard. So I have Fairy, Surgical, and Grafdigger's Cage. And Containment Priest, Rest in Peace. That is a crazy assortment of cards. Some of these other things do technically have text, but I don't know that I'm the most excited about them. What's not great here? Vial? Vial can probably go. Phlage sacrifices, Solitude sacrifices, Broadside sacrifices. Those are very actively good versus Bridge from Below. Yeah, like the rest of these cards look fine. I wonder if I don't play Cauldra, because searching up Lion Sash Chainsaw or Pre-War Formal Wear is just more relevant, and I don't want this to get stuck in my hand. This is nice versus Hogak specifically, but otherwise probably doesn't matter. Okay. Alright, I think we're gonna try to believe. I have cut Aether Vials, so I have cut mana sources innately from my deck. This is a Surveil land, so this helps me find a second piece of action beyond just the Ajani. Alright, looks like we're chilling for now. I will Surveil land. I'm gonna say no to that. Yes! That is very actively good. So between Grafdigger's Cage and Fairy, we have decent interaction for what my opponent is doing. I can Elegant Parlor my way to another relevant card. Putrid Imp is fine. So exact text of Grafdigger's Cage. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So we'll snag another Elegant Parlor. Wasteland. That's not really what I want to draw, but I think I'll just take it. Like, Wasteland plus Ajani is a fine turn. And my opponent probably needs to cast some sort of Nature's Claim style card to really get stuff going with Grafdigger's Cage. Opponent on regular draws for right now. Ooh, a tricky Street Wraith. This can be instant speed dredging, which can sometimes fuck with things like Fairy Macabre. That's fine. Yeah, we'll send on in. Opponent hesitates and does not block. Ooh, and does block, sure. Alright, so my opponent could go crazy here. An attempt to turn this into an absolutely massive creature. At which point I will Swords to Plowshares it. How did that just get sacrificed? Oh, I see, I clicked through to combat damage. Sure, that's fine. Now, we're going to take out both of those bridges and not give my opponent any creatures here. We're just trying to keep my opponent from getting going. There's a Street Wraith. And this is the point of the game where I'd really like to draw something like a Broadside. So it seems like my opponent has a play, and they are debating whether or not they want to do it. All right, it is a Chain of Vapor. You can return that. I will not be returning a land. Now my opponent is presumably going to, like, crack LED and do Faithless Looting nonsense or something. All right, it is Breakthrough. Okay, so there's a Hogak that I preempted. There's going to be a handful of dredges here. So there is now going to be a Narcomoeba in play. My opponent can Cabal Therapy me and get rid of the Grafdigger's Cage that they know about, and then I can have Swords to Plowshares. Ooh, Faithless Looting. I think I use this as an opportunity to fire off Swords to Plowshares on Narcomoeba so that there can't be a Cabal therapy that targets me as easily to take out Grafdigger's Cage. Fuck, it's a new Narcomoeba. Alright. One bridge from below. Sure. This takes out the cage. Now we're at the mercy of the deck. I'm out of Surveil lands. So it's just a natural draw here. That is not what I am looking for. We'll just kind of see how bad it gets from here. We took out 2 bridge from belows earlier, but this is a triple Icarid situation, which is not great because that is going to convert into some amount of like 3 creatures plus, you know, some damage plus a Hogak and a Narcomoeba on top of that. I just didn't deal enough damage to my opponent during the time that I had things kind of soft locked down. Opponent named Solitude, that's something that can clear a bridge from below while also being removal. It looks like opponent is going to tap the 2 zombies to Hogak. Then we'll see whether or not the Icarids are attacking. They are. I will trade here to take out that bridge from below. So my opponent will get 1 zombie instead of 3 zombies. I'm still going to need to answer this Hogak. Oh, now we're doing Cephalid Coliseum stuff. Sure. See if they find the last bridge from below. No. I'm going to do my marginal thinning here. I don't think it matters, though. Like, I think I am dead, and it's just a matter of time. Like, even if I hit something like a Solitude to take out the Hogak, I don't know that it's enough. We'll find out, though. So I swords this. I trade with a zombie token. I take 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 outright, and there's 3 of these. And plenty of black creatures in the graveyard. Yeah, no, I'm just getting overrun here. I think I punted game 1. I think my keep was reasonable here. And when I made the effort to stop Cabal Therapy from taking my cage and my opponent hit the other Narcomoeba, that was kind of the disaster point in game 2. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Alright, we have been paired against a Yorion deck of some kind. I think since one of these is an ETB tapped land, I do go ahead and take the time to play out an Aether Vial here. But I am unsure if playing Aether Vial is significantly better than just casting my spells. Not Death and Taxes. Yorion Enchantress? Interesting. Now I could just play Stoneforge Mystic this turn. I think Threatening Cauldron is a good idea. I don't want my opponent to get their bullshit going. I'll say yes, I'll put in a Guide of Souls. I'll fetch. I think I'm just getting another basic here. I don't want to get caught by some weirdo thing that hates on my lands. And I do think it is Cauldron. We're just gonna put our opponent to the test in terms of mana efficiency. They could have, you know, some sort of Chain to the Rocks style removal card that takes out Stoneforge Mystic, but a lot of times this turn will be spent playing Enchantress effects. Static Prison. Yep. Now, wow. Okay. So the remainder of that thought was going to be like, my opponent probably does not have all that much energy in their deck. I may be wrong if we are seeing Static Prison in multiples. Here, I just fully think that Aether Vial is too slow at this point. Fuck off. Alright. So we're going to play this immediately to get 2 energy. So 1 initially, plus another one from the cat. Then I'll attack with this. I will pay the energy into it. I will make my creatures swole. And I just want to run my opponent over with this 6 power. Like, I want them to not have time to set up their engine. Estrid's Invocation. Oh, fuck this. Alright. So my opponent now can just Static Prison. Fuck me! This is bullshit. I hate this. My opponent can now Static Prison things repeatedly every turn, gaining energy while they do so. Thanks, I hate it. Alright. Yeah. Let's just yield to all energy generating abilities. Yeah. Oh, come on. Dress down Force of Will. Okay. So I will send in for 3. Opponent is at 12. So now my opponent can blink this, turn it into a new static prison, exile my thing, knock the counters off of it, and the next turn they could flip-flop these if they wanted. And now they have energy to pay for their stuff. I'm marginally upset at what's happening on here, but this is fucking sweet deck building. I like what the opponent is cooking over there. Sarah's Sanctum might put my opponent over the top here. That is a Yorion to hand. Yorion blinks all these static prisons. Okay. So my opponent will blink some number of these. The Abundant Growth will draw them a card. They'll probably blink this static prison and turn this into something that is taking Guide of Souls. Oh, okay. Oh, they're giving me my creatures back. That is kind. So yes, I will use this ability. Pick up pre-war Formalware to return in Ajani, I guess. Now these come back. I lose Stoneforge and Guide of Souls. My opponent lets me keep a vial. I will throw it at their face, and I will be happy to do so. Caracas over there is some bullshit. Don't really know what my plan is for that. That's probably not good. That can go to graveyard. I think my plan is murder my opponent. I'm a little unsure of the details for how we make that happen. So this is an attack to 10. I throw an Aether Vial at my opponent's face to put them to 8. Next turn, if I still have Broadside, I can Lava Axe them with pre-war Formalware. Alright, so my opponent is going to now take my Broadside. I don't know, maybe we play pre-war Formalware, returning Ajani first. It's just like so bad in the face of Caracas. I'm going to get hit by Yorion. Go to 18, then my opponent can bounce it and replay it. Then presumably just blink this one unless they need the energy from returning these things. They wanted the energy enough previously that they did give me more stuff. Okay, yep. So the energy makes the Guide of Souls more real. Is this 3 damage to creature only? Yeah, creature only. I'll pick up a Lion Sash. It's just a body that I can cast. Now these come back. I guess I lose Broadside Stoneforge here? Yes. I might end this game by getting to 7 mana and hard casting Kaldra. That might be where we're going. Grab a land. Just 3 to equip. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this. The Yorion successfully blocks. So instead we will go bam. We're getting a Brainstorm in response. Return Ajani. That will give me 2 more energy and 2 more life. As we get that cat, then I'll send out Lion Sash and eat a decent amount of stuff at this point. And then we'll pass the turn. And we'll see where all this bullshit ends up. I feel like my opponent is favored, but I also feel like it's not over yet. Static Prison takes out a cat. We'll fish a Chainsaw out of my deck, which will become relevant on the next combat step, I think. And then my opponent will maintain their stuff. Up the Beanstalk as well. That's just extra Yorion Force of Will value. Okay. Leyline Binding. I am losing the Ajani, even though that is bounceable via Caracas. I guess I showed the Chainsaw. That's just the draw a card one? Yeah. Okay, so that's how my opponent is making Leyline Binding somewhat reasonable. Am I losing a body or a pre-war Formalware? I am losing a body. Sure. Legend Rule Sarah's Sanctum. Ah. Sure. So now my opponent can bounce Yorion. Oh, nope. Okay. That looks like dead. Broadside attack with Menace for 2. Throw pre-war Formalware for 5. I mean, there could be another Leyline Binding. My opponent looks to me like they were planning on block bounce. Let's see if they're dead. Damn it. Alright. Now I think I just eat some stuff with Lion Sash and try to make this into a reasonable attacker. I'm going to Lazy Person eat here. I'm not expecting my opponent's graveyard to be super relevant. I can play Aether Vial. Just like the Estrid's Invocation nonsense just means like the Vial ticking up doesn't matter, the Lion Sash getting counters doesn't really matter. Yeah, and at some point my opponent just probably turns it into card draw like they're doing. At some point I should consider just conceding. Like, I think this one is over in my opponent's favor. But I'm so close. And my opponent is very, very low on instant speed removal. Plus, I haven't seen how my opponent actually intends to kill me, because I imagine you can't just intend on winning every game with Yorion attacks. Stoneforge for Cauldron is real. Alright, begin with Lion Sash attack. The Yorion blocks. I will eat some stuff out of my graveyard to make it so that Yorion, in theory, dies to combat damage. And then my opponent will bounce Yorion. This is 5-5 versus 4-5. This, in theory, works. Bloop. Now we'll put Stoneforge into play, which is threatening because it represents putting Cauldron into play. 12 mana, 13 mana, 14 mana. It's just hardcast Force of Will, draw 2. And I'll put a Vial in play. And Leyline Binding, sure. So that is presumably the last piece of instant speed removal. Oh wow, they actually value that Aether Vial. Sure. I'm going to stop narrating Static Prison energy stuff unless it looks like it's relevant. Oh, there's the One Ring in here too. Sure. There's an actual factual Enchantress effect. We're finally seeing one. I'm going to concede once I see what my opponent's actual win condition is. Because, like, Yorion is now repeatedly drawing cards. The One Ring is here. Argothian Enchantress has Shroud. Chainsaw is not killing it. I temporarily have my Broadside back. And then this shit happens. Yeah. Show me a win con. Opponent has discarded a gajillion lands. I'll pass turn. Like, my opponent is not going to be drawing cards with the One Ring. Oh, hey, I got Lion Sash back. Oh, hey, Lion Sash is gone. Could have eaten some lands from graveyard there. I had F6'd. It's also probably correct to leave them there so I can eat them later if I do actually ever get an attack step with Lion Sash, which I don't expect is happening. Okay, alright, now I've seen the win condition, so now I know to watch for Shark Typhoon. I can concede the game at this point. Alright, so I don't hate Magus of the Moon to stop my opponent's non-basic lands. Serra Sanctum and Karakas are both very, very important. Wear Terror is fine. The Damping Sphere, Deafening Silence stuff is okay as well. So Chainsaw does not do a lot here. Source of Plowshares and Path to Exile don't do a lot unless they very specifically are disrupting a Yorion loop, which may be enough to get them to stay in the deck. I think I get rid of Aether Vial. I think if my opponent is playing a pile of Static Prisons, it just doesn't make sense to try to rely on these. I don't think I like how this lines up for me. I think I just lose the long game, and I don't think I want to sit here and try to time my opponent out. This is mediocre. Do I want to keep it? I don't know that this is aggressive enough. Like, this is a mediocre threat. I'm not going to be filling my graveyard for this. This isn't good until much, much, much later. I think I'm going to try to do better. This is better. I think I keep threats and get rid of Swords to Plowshares. I don't think I expect what happened last game to fully be the norm. Solitude can go away. So there is a question, like, on what turn do I play Damping Sphere? Probably immediately now. Fantastic. So now my opponent's land is only going to tap for 1 mana, I believe. Wait, no. Is that how that works? So still produces 2. Yeah, whenever at trigger. Okay, yeah, so Sword's not doing what I need it to do here. I can Broadside and start attacking immediately. That uses my mana efficiently. While Damping Sphere is in play, I think it's less important that I use my mana efficiently. So I think I'm just going to Stoneforge. Rewar Farmware can't return this Solitude. I think I am using it to get Kaldra, even if I expect that Kaldra gets stuck in my hand some portion of the time. Island Cycling, sure. Now let's get rid of this stop. Certainly don't need that anymore. Alright, so my opponent gets to draw 2 cards there. One off the Enchantress, one off the enchantment itself. And I think they are running into Damping Sphere, making them unable to cast a second spell, which is great. That is what I want. We'll go ahead and Elegant Parlor here. That's fine, because that lets me Kaldra activate and then play something afterwards. That's not really a card that I super want at this point of the game. but it lets me use my mana well. There is something to be said for that. I imagine that this is going to walk into some sort of Leyline Binding style removal. Yeah. Goodbye. But we made an effort of it. So now I can throw down Ocelot Pride. I can still be attacking for 2 and potentially start throwing some cats a little bit later. That probably just takes out my Damping Sphere, and then my opponent can go ham. Abundant Growth and Brainstorm. Very fast Brainstorm and potential Shuffle. I am drawing these cards that I don't want to be drawing. Sure. Am I getting forced? Dress down. Sure. This is particularly annoying because my opponent is removing the Shroud from their creature, so I would be able to Swords to Plowshares it, but I've tapped out. Tilt. I don't have Menace, I don't have Haste. Like, this is so much better for me if I just have 1 more mana here. They Levite. Utopia Sprawl. Unable to Scream. Lose all ability is a 0/2. Can't be turned face up. Sure. This is just more enchantment-based stuff. Alright. What on earth are you doing versus combo decks, though? Like, I imagine Force of Will in the larger than normal Yorion deck is not cutting it. I wonder if this is just a very close to 15 card sideboard 4 combo. Estrid's Invocation. I think I'm going to tap out here. I think this is probably the point where this ceases to be fun anymore. What's that? Atilda Dawnheart Martyr. Flying lifelink, protection from vampires, power and toughness equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits or enchantments. Then it's got a Disturb that is an aura version of it. Okay. I could take out one thing from here, like get a Broadside, get a Stoneforge, get a Cauldra. I don't know that any of that is going to be enough to win from here. Like, I can Swords this. Alright. Let's Swords the creature. Alright. Alright. I think that's enough then. Alright, GG's. Okay, so, like, this is a great example of what I'm talking about. Like, is it correct to actually play Aether Vial in this hand, or is it correct to just play Guide of Souls into Ocelot Pride immediately? That is, like, very legitimately unclear to me without having played this deck. It seems, and this is, crazy talk, it seems like the tempo cost of playing Aether Vial might not actually be worth it. I'm going to play it. It helps versus things like counter spells, but if my opponent thought seizes me and I lose one of Guide of Souls or Ocelot Pride, my hand is a lot weaker. The secondary question is, which land do I do it off of? I think it's Karakas. Like, showing Karakas early is not necessarily my favorite thing in the world to do, but I don't think I want to expose Plateau to Wasteland earlier than I need to. Alright, we have Boseiju into Exploration and Urza's Saga. So we'll tick this file up. I think we're going to go Yaw. Always yield to energy generation. I'm unsure whether or not the second Aether Vial is better than just surveilling. I think it is better to surveil. Wasteland is great. So now I get my cat and another energy. And if we can keep my opponent from accumulating Urza Saga tokens, like if we can keep those 1/1s, my little cat tokens can just attack into them safely, and like that's all good. It gets a lot dicier if my opponent just has an Expedition map or another Pithing Needle or some random artifact that can sit on the table this turn. Vexing Bauble. Wasteland's fine. I hope they hit my Elegant Parlor. I was gonna have some cute Ajani Caracas stuff coming. Crop Rotation. Ancient Tomb? Is that the direction you're going? Are we gonna get, like, Tabernacled? Not immediately. Alright. It feels like I'm just going to lose this game to a Tabernacle a couple of turns down the line, yeah. Well, I'm not gonna concede yet, but I do lose everything. I will concede once I see, like, a Life from the Loam. Anyway, folks, basic lands are good. If you've never heard that before from anyone, someone's gotta tell you. I will take this up to 2. I think it's gotta be that one. And I guess I can do it in my opponent's upkeep to the same effect. I will take out Tabernacle, and before Urza's Saga goes off, I need to activate this to put in my creature. Alright. So my opponent can get like an expedition map here, potentially a Vexing Bauble, a Pithing Needle. Ooh, opponent did not float mana for Urza's Saga. Alright, there is a Pithing Needle. So now my Aether Vials are off. Bojuka Bog technically relevant, but not too much. And Dark Depths. Alright, hopefully I can beat my opponent to death with a cat. At this point, we are going to say always no to this and always yield to this. This is just off for the foreseeable future. And we'll see if I can dodge Tabernacle, basically. We'll ignore this other Aether Vial as a card. I'll play it out at some point if I can, mostly so that it can be fuel in play for a Broadside, but that's about it. Take 3. Urza's Saga. All right. So you're telling me there's a chance. Aldra is not the card that I was looking for, believe it or not. 13. Play a Vial. Shit. Now that's just a 20/20 that kills me in the air. I need to draw Swords to Plowshares. Or a Caracas, I suppose. Or Wasteland if they don't do it now. Phlage does not do it. No fear. Send them in. I don't have the energy to make a flyer, which is super unfortunate right now. Womp womp. Okay, yeah, no. Oh, I am at 21. I get another draw. I've lost Ajani. My opponent takes 3. I don't have swords. If they have Swiftfoot Boots, I die. That will be the 21st point of damage. Yeah, there it is. Concede. So, Magus of the Moon is interesting. Wear Terror is maybe playable. I don't think I want the Graveyard Hate. Like, Life from the Loam is just one angle that deck has. I don't really want Chainsaw in my deck. I could play Meltdown for Urza Saga Construct tokens specifically. Does Vial matter? Vial on 5 could matter. Vial matters if I have one of my 3 Wastelands. If I cut these, I play Wear Terror, double Meltdown, and kill with something like Rest in Peace. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. It's a little awkward in that I probably am supposed to play Caracas early, so that this can be plateau later. I think protecting the colored sources matters, because specifically I have Phlage in this hand, and could change a lot very quickly. And pop off really hard if I draw an Ocelot Pride. That's disconcerting. Ooh, so that's a Riftstone portal, so that will now tap for mana. And there is a Swords to Plowshares. You got it. The crop rotation is available. My hand's not very good. I think I want to try to buy some time. I'm going to try to Wasteland this. I will do so immediately, so that my opponent doesn't have both of these untapped in case they have some sort of like Once Upon a Time style card in their deck that they could cast in their upkeep if they have 2 mana. That unfortunately is the crop rotation, or an Urza Saga. Sucks to be me. I will drop a Guide of Souls. And that was my wasted land drop. We're further away from Phlage. The Wasteland didn't contribute to Phlage anyway, though, so, like, I think this game might just be decided now. It's a lot of Elegant Parlor. Alright, yeah. Stoneforge is fine. So I'm going to make an attack into this, see if my opponent activates. We'll trade swords for a third of an Urza Saga. Feels bad. But I want to keep these constructs small. I want to still be able to attack into them and kill them with Phlage triggers. The next turn could be Phlage, kill a construct, or Stoneforge plus Elegant Parlor. There's a 2/2, soon to be 3/3. It getting Ward would throw me off a little bit. That is the land drop. The ward means that I cannot Phlage successfully next turn and kill it. So if my opponent were to get another artifact into play, that would put it out of range of being Lightning Helixed by Phlage. So, Stoneforge. Yield to the energy generation here. Say yes. Is it just Kaldra? I think it's just Kaldra. I think I need that threat of ending the game. I absolutely do not want that land. We're a little light on energy right now. Guide of Souls spirals really, really hard in the early game at the expense of being a weaker than normal legacy card. But I think the like Ocelot Pride Ajani openers that you can have are totally worth still playing the card. Oh, opponent is continuing to attack. Fantastic for me, I think. Hopefully. I would prefer that my opponent just like not answer the Cauldron and die. That would be cool. So, next up, do I even play the Cauldron this turn when my opponent has intentionally left open this mana? I believe that the answer is no, I do not. So I think we just Phlage instead this turn. Alright, so I would like to deal 3 damage to this, and then I have to pay the extra for the ward. Let's just clear this out, and then attack in for 2 points of damage. I guess don't endurance me. Alright, 18. The opponent does not remove my Stoneforge or anything here. Tabernacle is annoying. I think I'll still pay for my stuff. This can be my other basic land color. I guess I want to leave up Caracas, actually. Grab basic mountain. Yeah. Germ enters. Send in. Now Guide of Souls is a reasonable card. I believe that I just Guide of Souls targeting Guide of Souls rather than the Germ token. Just spread it out over multiple things. Cards like Maze of Ith exist within Legacy. The downside of putting the counters on Guide of Souls is that my opponent does have a Blast Zone, but if they are using a turn worth of mana to Blast Zone that, I think I'm okay with that. Like, the Tabernacle could tap for it, but like, if I trade a couple of energy for one of their lands at this point, I think that's favorable for me. We're passing phases. Okay. Opponent's down to 10 when that's all said and done. I'm going to assume that that was just like a wrong priority pass or something there. Okay, I just ran my opponent over. Well, I mean, I say I ran them over, but it's turn 6. Slow running over. More of a crushing, really. Okay, I think I liked not having Aether Vial. It's possible that card just shouldn't be in the deck. This has no lands. That's an auto mulligan. This has 1. How many lands remaining? 21. Noticeably less than 50% to draw a land on each draw step. I think I'll get a 5. The 5 is not good. 5 has no early game. I think I just die. I'm going to keep it. I think at this point I just have to get lucky off the top. I'm just going to keep 3 lands double broadside and hope that I can get really aggressive in the mid game. I just have no counterplay here. That's rough for me. Wasteland off the top? Negative. More land. Okay, I can surveil land and try to find something that interacts with this Urza Saga before my opponent gets 2 tokens that just outpace me in a fair capacity. Now I can't get a surveil land. Fuck. And my opponent can just play 2 more lands next turn to continuously activate Urza Saga. I think I just get buried. Alright, so current plan. Find Meltdown. I offer up this elegant parlor, the gods of Wasteland. Okay, so just micro tip for the future. You don't need to Wasteland before I surveil. Like, I'm going to assume that you're going to Wasteland, but you don't have to give me that information before I do this elegant parlor thing. I'm going to say that this is above average. I think I'm going to keep that. Now, I will pass turn. I'm going to let my opponent activate this Urza Saga here. Now, I think I activate on this one. I think I give them the search, and I deny them 2 tokens. Kind of 3. So this is not going to make its 2 tokens, and then my opponent misses out on a token here as well. So the Urza Saga crisis is hopefully over. I was fishing for Meltdown. Wear Terror was one of my other targeted sideboard cards, so like that's fine. 2 mana. The crop rotation. Urza Saga crisis is back. Or is it? That feels weird to me. Unless my opponent's about to cast a Life from the Loam. Pithing Needle. Naming Wasteland? Caracas? Alright. A very real fear. Okay. So my opponent chose to get Windswept Heath, but has Dark Depths. Is there something I'm missing? Unsure. I will play a Guide of Souls. I don't understand this. Like, if there was another fetch land, you already have access to a Surveil land, if that's what that was for. Yeah. Like, the crop rotation could have been a combo piece. It could have been another Urza's Saga. I don't understand why it just became a regular land. It feels like a mistake. Alright, opponent going to stay the aggressor. I'll take 2. My opponent could just have a crop rotation and it's all kind of moot. I think I am in a dangerous enough situation that I do get Elegant Parlor, despite the fact that, like, crop rotation Wasteland could take me off of this land immediately. Well, with Stoneforge off, let's get rid of Cauldra. I am very good at drawing that Singleton Cauldra. It is a talent, really. So let's Broadside. Gain an energy. My Guide of Souls is not long for this world, though. Opponent is at 15. I think I'm just killing their Construct token. I think that is worth it here. I don't necessarily want to have a lot of creatures stacked up in play because my opponent is a Tabernacle deck anyway. Alright, that is removing an ice counter. Yeah, so I think the crop rotation getting a Savannah was just objectively a mistake. Let's see if we can capitalize on that. Ugh. This is very scary because it means that if my... yeah, okay. So I'm going to lose that land. This is fine. My opponent is going to lose Drop of Honey, though. So that will happen at their upkeep. I am thinking about whether or not I want to feed more creatures to it. I can play Stoneforge, get pre-war Formalware. Let Drop of Honey destroy pre-war Formalware. Sorry, destroy Stoneforge, play pre-war Formalware, bring it back. I think I'm just going to let the Drop of Honey go. Then I can have that same play pattern versus a future one. So I get dropped. Drop of Honey gets sacrificed. And my opponent passes the turn. Well, yeah. Now this is just a tutor. This is not on. I could get Lion Sash if I think the graveyard is relevant, which I don't. I think if my opponent casts 1 life from the loam, getting Urza's Saga, and either Wasteland or more other Wasteland, it's already just bad for me. So I think I'm going to get pre-war Formalware for if my creatures die. And then I'll play a cat. I can die to crop rotation at any time. I think I am racing manual remove Dark Depths counters. Who chooses if it's tied? You choose one of them. So if I make Ocelot Pride cat tokens. Ooh, that's interesting. Unsure if good, but interesting. If I melt down this, I live versus main phase, draw Thespian Stage, activate, equip, which is probably just something that I should do. I'll send in with both. Hit my opponent for 2. Put them to 11. Melt down for 1 to kill these 2. Oh, it's just the counter. That's fine. Got it. Alright. Live to see another turn. Make a cat. And at this point, I think I just will end up killing my opponent over 2 turns. Stressful. Broadside into Broadside should do that. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. Could have 4, 5, 6, 7 damage this turn. I think I'm going to play a Broadside in case my opponent gets cheeky with some Flash blocker or something. I do have Stoneforge Mystic activate, get Guide of Souls as a thing that I can do. Okay, there's a Swords. Send in for 3. Opponent will go to 8. And then I will make a cat. And hopefully not die. I have to shut the door. When my girlfriend's not home, I try to leave the door open when I record so the cats can come say hi if they want. So I have an attack for 4, 5, 6, plus Broadside Fling next turn. Alright, we have gotten the GG. I think my opponent played well as a whole. I'm not sure if they just got into their head with that 1 crop rotation. I think if that gets an Urza's Saga or a Thespian Stage or even a Tabernacle, this game is a lot harder for me. I think this was a game that was won and lost off of 1 single mistake. And that's kind of cool about Legacy. GG's. Alright, I don't have enough mana to be functional here. On 6, I'm going to say this is fine. We'll throw back 1 fetch land here. I have a reasonable turn 2 play, reasonable turn 3 play, reasonable turn 4 play. Well, never mind. Although I guess pre-war Formalware makes taking Ajani here a little bit awkward. I may still have a turn 2-3 curve. I don't know, taking pre-war formalware if you don't intend on immediately answering these other things is maybe not correct. All right, we're going with Broadside. Okay, now I have a good turn 1 play. I think I'm going to play this game on basics in case my opponent is doing some sort of Pox-like strategy. Opponent's name is Good Ol' Rock. Not saying that this is a called shot that it's Pox, but if it's Pox, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, fuck me, alright. Absolutely wrong. This is probably Grixis control then, if we're seeing like Snapcaster and Thoughtseize. Yeah, Scalding Tarn I think confirms that. So, I think we let my opponent exhaust removal on this before I go in for Stoneforge Mystic. Although maybe I'm wrong, like Stoneforge immediately cantrips. Yeah, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Let's do this. Now I can get Kaldra, threaten Kaldra. If opponent kills Stoneforge, I bring it back with pre-war formalware. And that's that. I don't think I want to get Lion Sash here. I think investing mana into eating my opponent's graveyard to make Snapcaster Mage worse is not worth it. Alright, Grixis control confirmed. And Lightning Bolt. Yeah, so now I just have pre-war formalware for the next turn. And hopefully that's good. Could get like Hymn to Taroct or something here in a very awkward way. Ah, that jerk. Opponent has 1 card left. Fuck your Psychic Frog. Like, as much as I want to bring back the Stoneforge Mystic, this is just surely correct. Very good top deck there. Now I get to play 2 bodies on 1 card. Does give my opponent a turn to like Thoughtseize or Snapcaster this pre-war formalware for a shit ton of value. That's a land drop. Well, send it. Opponent is at 14. Pre-war formalware. I think I like the idea of Stoneforge Mystic still. Cling to Dust. Sure. Annoying. Because like now the Kaldra that I fetched is not actively good. 3 to equip, 3 to equip. Neat. Ignore equipping that. One has 0 cards in hand right now. So everything that I do this turn is just going to work. So attack. He did put a card on top. Is maybe not the best for me. Guide of Souls. Make a Planeswalker. Keep one of these, sacrifice the other. I end up getting some energy here. We'll just yield to all of those. So yes, we will go ahead and 0 and start going wide of any blockers that my opponent can produce. This will give us our 3rd energy to make Guide of Souls be able to reasonably attack next turn. The next turn I can plus on each one of the cats to add 3 damage to that attack step. Opponent can draw a card or gain some life here. They choose not to do so. Right, they have enough in graveyard. 1, 2, 3. No, they have 5 in graveyard, counting that, excuse me. All right, and we're chilling. So, we'll plus on every cat. And we're done with me. Well, that was a pretty dominating performance on my side of the battlefield. My opponent never got a real source of card advantage. You know, they don't have a Jace the Mind Sculptor or a Psychic Frog or whatever. Answering that Psychic Frog won me this game. And it was a top-decked answer, admittedly. Kills Psychic Frog. Kills Psychic Frog. Get in here. From there are some things that I could do to mess with Snapcaster Mage and Cling to Dust and stuff of that nature. I don't know that it is correct to do so. And I just want to be threat dense here. I think that means boarding out Vials. Vial is also just going to be bad versus Culligan's Command. You want to play a Magus of the Moon as a gotcha button. My opponent may or may not have enough basics that they can play the game well without them. They will always have red. So like Lightning Bolt will always be live to remove a Magus. And then Rest in Peace is a little awkward because my pre-war formalware is like very good and quite annoying. But it probably nukes like Snapcaster and Cling to Dust. Lessens the power of a Psychic Frog. I could also just play Surgical Extraction and Surgical Extraction a reasonable removal spell for a Snapcaster target without spending mana. I could also play Wear Tear in anticipation of something like Baleful Strix being in the deck. I'm going to go Surgical. I think that pre-war formalware interaction is a really big deal, and I would also be shutting off my Phlage. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Opponent has mulliganed. Wasteland does not contribute mana to Phlage. I would actually prefer not to Wasteland my opponent this game. Like, I would like to just slam a turn 3 Magus of the Moon, if possible, and disrupt my opponent's mana. Them leading on basic island here, not the best for us. If I disrupt black mana with it alone, like, I think that is perfectly fine. Let's surveil. This is my last land drop for Phlage, but I think I'm going to assume that I hit lands later and not keep that. There's Brainstorm. So what we don't want to see is black fetch land basic swamp. It's technically not basic swamp yet, but you know. So I will slam a Stoneforge this turn. And if it resolves, I'm going to pick up pre-war formalware. It does not resolve. I would love to see a surveil land here. Fuck yeah. That's what we want. New fetch is a little awkward because my opponent could now fetch a basic in response to this. So I could try to like finesse this a little bit and like play a Phlage and try to get my opponent in that capacity. Or I can just slam the Magus and my opponent just probably uses a card answering it because it's annoying for their fetch lands to be shut off anyway. That's fine. I'm going to do this in a way where I put an extra card into my graveyard, though. I will grab Basic Mountain and then slam this. No fetch, so opponent just has Lightning Bolt. Or opponent has one Basic Swamp, alternatively. I think it's Lightning Bolt, yeah. Now opponent can fetch. They can surveil if they have another one, or just get a basic to avoid this in the future. No red showing yet. If they do non-basic red, I can wasteland them off of red and then play Phlage. And that's a perfectly fine turn cycle. Snapcaster Mage, that's fine. That will give me some okay Phlage value. I just like get an incidental body so that I don't have to use a real card on it. Because there's probably only like 6-ish cards I care about in my opponent's entire deck. Like probably 4 Psychic Frogs, you know, 2-ish Murktide Regents, Jaces, whatever other win condition they're playing. Alright. Yeah. Phlage. Kill Snapcaster. I think I passed turn. Now I'll waste them in upkeep. This kind of denied the opportunity of getting like a red surveil land for their turn, for example. Alright. So, I think I just cast Phlage here. It is my mana efficient play. This does nuke my entire graveyard to cast it. It's in play. It's hitting my opponent in the face. Surely it doesn't remain in play, right? That would just be too good to be true. Grixis Basics. That's an expensive Toxic Deluge, yeah. And this will come back later. Nice. We're gonna throw down 2 of these. My opponent really needs to answer both. These are the sorts of cards that can spiral versus Grixis control very, very easily. I do walk into another Toxic Deluge, but it's not like my opponent has Snapcaster Toxic Deluge on the table right now. So they would need to be running 2 of those and have both, which is pretty unlikely. I would rather hedge against single target removal spells. And we're chilling. 5th land drop means that Hardcast Solitude is online. Send in. Orcish Bowmasters. Sure. So my opponent is going to ping 1 and kill it, and then attempt to double block the other, at which point I will cast Solitude. And I do believe that Solitude is correct here rather than Swords of Plowshares. It's very, very awkward if my opponent has Force of Will blue card remaining, and I make this decision. But this sets me up to have the most bodies in play, and the bodies that... Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. So I guess mistake on my end, I should have let first strike damage go through and killed the Bowmaster. I will exile that Bowmaster. Yep, so just a little priority slip on my end. There's another land drop. Mulligan's Command, returning Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, you've got it. So we could have lived in a timeline where this orc is not there. I think I just take hits from that for a little while. I don't think I swords that. I think it is far too important to remove Psychic Frog. Like, the Psychic Frog and Murktide Regent-sized things are the things that matter. Plus, my opponent just has Snapcaster Culligan's Command available to them. So, like, there's more important things going on right now. I'll surveil. Cat is underwhelming. I think I'm just going to use this to feed Phlage. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Phlage is good to go again. Hardcast Force of Will could be a thing over there. There's not a Snapcaster answer to it immediately. I think I'm going to hold this. So it's like, do I hold that versus do I leave an Ocelot Pride in graveyard for pre-war formal wear specifically? All right, 3 damage at face or kill orc. 3 damage at face. They don't want Snapcaster, Toxic Deluge to be live to kill this Phlage. Alright, opponent just chilling. Lightning Bolt Phlage into Snapcaster Lightning Bolt Phlage. Sure. That occurs. I think I ignore the 1/1 Orc. I think I'm going to get rid of Snapcaster because that Snapcaster can come back to like Culligan's Command or be Jace bounced in a very, very negative way for me. Guide of Souls is not a particularly strong top deck here. I'm going to continue holding this land. Once I get another card or two in my graveyard, I might need to just play it out to contribute towards Phlage to make it so that if I top deck another land, I just have that covered. And this is why I have just like not at any point in this game not been thinking about Psychic Rogue. I just can't let my opponent have one of those unchecked. I don't cast that. Am I playing the land now? Yeah, I think I'm playing the land now, though. Send in for 1. Down to 7. Yup. Ooh, we get a freebie here. I'm going to fetch. Just pull another planes out of my deck. So I'm going to eat this Goyf. Then I can block the 1/1 in combat. Ooh. Consigned to memory? It is a consigned to memory, sure. My opponent can counter both of these triggers. Now I can still do this and block and take that out. This card's a little bit of a problem. That is not what I need. 1, 2, 3. I could attack into it. Attack with Solitude. My opponent blocks. 4 cards in graveyard, 5 cards in graveyard. Phlage them. Yeah, I can attack with Solitude safely. Yeah. Alright, opponent takes the bait. That's fantastic. I really needed them to take that. The 3 damage marked here. Fetch. Pull a land. Phlage. Now this is smaller even. It's a 3/4 now. And this was fully avoidable if my opponent just takes 3. I needed that extra body in graveyard to do this. Yeah, so I misstepped and should have let first strike damage go through to kill an extra token, and my opponent misstepped, I think, by misevaluating what I was doing with that attack. Like, it feels pretty obvious to me that that attack was a trap, but good old Rock, not that good versus Magic cards, apparently. GG's. Alright, I don't think Aether Vial saves this hand. I have 2 5-drops here. Even if I consider pitch casting one of these, I don't think the remainder of this hand is actually good. Second hand's fine. I don't think I keep Chainsaw in a vacuum versus an unknown opponent. I can tutor it back up if I need to. Like, it's kind of nice to have multiple targets to put in via Stoneforge, but I don't even know that I'm playing Stoneforge on turn 2. Alright, we've got an Ancient Tomb matchup now. Okay, I don't think you play Ancient Tomb prior to Once Upon a Time. Like, you're not playing around days or anything here. You have lost flexibility or what you do with that land drop slot for the turn. We're playing against Eldrazi. I am likely to just get run over. I would like to surveil for removal. My non-basic land here is not great. This cat is too slow here at this stage. I think this is game over. I think my opponent just like casts a Sowing Wyco Spawn, obliterates one of my lands, and just ends up being able to cast larger creatures ahead of curve beyond what I'm doing. If I get 2 Phlage before my opponent makes any reasonable plays, we can talk. But this probably just means Kozilek's Command is going to happen on whatever creature that I play. So, anticipating Kozilek's Command, we don't play the Stoneforge Mystic to get Kaldra. We play something else as bait. So I think we play Ajani as bait for Kozilek's Command. Hope our opponent bites, and then maybe we can stabilize with Kaldra. But this can just exile a Germ token, so IDK. The Eldrazi deck recently in metagame trends has been doing worse than the Mystic Forge deck that is kind of playing the same shell. And accordingly, some people have forgotten how just busted this deck still is in terms of just how objectively fast it can be. Alright, is it Scry and Exile? Okay, it is Scry and Exile, so we played around our Kaldra getting lost forever to the void. That's the good news. The bad news is whatever the fuck happens on this turn. Okay, we're just playing a 7-drop on turn 3. Oh no. Alright, GG. So this is a kicked Sowing Mycospawn, which means I lose the basic, and then my opponent can tutor up a Wasteland to hit this one. Or if they have a green source and another Sowing Mycospawn, they can get a green source first. And, you know, we're not playing Magic anymore. Like, there is a Devourer of Destiny coming. My opponent has a 3/3 that walls my 1/2s. But we'll pretend. Like, there's some worlds where my opponent casts it this turn, exiles a Guide of Souls, and then they don't do anything for the rest of the game because they only have lands in hand. And I can win a game that looks like that. Oh, they're taking a turn off to play Chalice of the Void. I have 0 1-drops in my hand. Yeah, I'll trade. I will absolutely trade here. I'm just going to try to protect my life total. We'll get a basic here, I guess. And we'll attempt to get Kaldra and do something meaningful with Kaldra. So now we can play this weird game of chicken with Devourer of Destiny. Or my opponent can just exile the Stoneforge and I'll have to draw another. Happens. So much mana. Okay. Alright. How many cards are in my graveyard? 4. I don't think I try to set up Phlage yet. Let's make a cat. I can just wall this. Like, attack, block, bounce. Sure. This was done in the way that hurts my opponent the most. So they're presumably casting another spell here. So now my block bounce stuff isn't as good. So I won't do that anymore. Because this. So now instead I will block with this cat token to let a cat die. And transform my Planeswalker. Another Kozilek's command. Another Kozilek's command. I mean, I'll bounce it to my hand now. Or do I just cast Swords to Plowshares to put a 5th card into my graveyard? Yeah. Because in theory, I could cast Phlage, 3 my opponent, draw a land, 3 my opponent, attack, put them in a bad spot. This is an exile. Yeah, I think I'm going to cast Swords to Plowshares to put a card in my graveyard so it doesn't have to be a fetch land and it can be any land that enables what I'm doing. Weird spot. Yes. So, Swords to Plowshare is a creature. That gets countered. Nice. So there is the land that I wanted. So cast Phlage. 3 damage at face. And I do think I am sending it to graveyard. I don't think I am interested in bouncing it here. Like, I could have a 4-mana repeatable Lightning Helix, but I think I need the giant body. The issue here is that Eye of Ugin is now, like, live. Opponent's at 7. Ancient Tombs are relevant. Like, self-damage because of Phlage, so my opponent can't tap both Ancient Tombs or they die. Great work. I will take 6. I wouldn't hate drawing another land so that I can leave Karakas up for my Phlage. And then kind of play around Eye of Ugin, getting a Devourer of Destiny. That's not what's happening here. I think I am doing this to pressure my opponent's life total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. 3 at face. Opponent is at 4. We're starting to get into territory where I can potentially, like, broadside my opponent to death. Although I can't use this vial. This is going to cost some spawns. The opponent is going to pay 2 life here to activate the Eye of Ugin. This means that another Phlage can just be lethal. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's Glaring Fleshraker. This doesn't work out mana-wise, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, no, they played Glaring Fleshraker rather than... Yeah. My opponent made a couple of costly mistakes this game. So they countered their own It That Heralds the End. They stopped me, or rather didn't stop me from having lethal. I think they used their second Kozilek's command wrong. I think I should have lost that game against a more experienced player. But we take those. Split Up seems fantastic. Magus of the Moon seems fantastic. That is kind of the extent of what I have. I can play Damping Sphere. It's not super exciting. Like, it is a very big tempo hit for me to take a turn off to play this, because it often means, like, not playing 2 of these or not playing 1 of these, all of which are very relevant. Conceptually, when my opponent is on the play, I don't love Aether Vial. My opponent showed a strong desire to put Chalice of the Void on 1. If I can remove some 1-drops from my deck, that's reasonable. Specifically because of the exact card Damping Sphere. Like, Aether Vial into Damping Sphere is really good. But generally speaking, I think this card is not great. I think I will be playing one because I don't think Meltdown or Wear Tear are particularly valuable here, and like Containment Priest as a 2/2 body isn't super exciting. We will keep the Miser's Aether Vial. I don't feel like my board has enough for this matchup. Well, these are some cards. Fully dead to Chalice of the Void. Probably dead to Missing Land Drops. Incredibly high upside if I run hot, but I think I'll just mulligan and try to keep something safer. This isn't much better. I will probably try to keep Ocelot Pride plus Wasteland, though. Junk 1 Phlage. Possible I junk this. Like, this is a very good card if I get this going, though. Alright, let's junk 1 Phlage. There's just, like, Solitude pitch cards to think about here. The opponent has a Devourer of Destiny trigger to start off the game, so they get to look at the top 4 cards of their library, and they can put one of those cards back. It is optional. They could exile all of them, and they do. So they don't want fair creatures. They lead on Wasteland. So that means that I can't, like, super effectively Wasteland a good land this turn, so I think I just play Ocelot Pride and get my own creature going this turn, and then hope to Swords to Plowshare something like a Glaring Fleshraker into Wasteland, a land that taps for 2 mana. I'd like to keep my opponent off of 7 if possible. Gaia's Cradle with no creatures in play. Lotus Petal. 2 mana, Chalice on 1. You've got it. I am going to run you over with 1 cat. I'm going to run you over. No. I'm gonna still have to run you over with 1 cat. This will self-spiral. I think at this point I just Wasteland the Wasteland. I think I just try to keep them from turning Gaia's Cradle into a functional land, and just take the fact that this can spiral each turn. I have Solitude to take out the next creature that my opponent plays. Okay, yeah. No, why did you keep this hand? Still kicking the opponent while they're down. The London Mulligan is the most powerful thing in the game of Magic. Why are you not taking advantage of it? Yep. Alright, cool. So I will send in for 3. Opponent is at 16. And 14. This land drop choice is a little awkward. I don't really want to get Wastelanded. I have lots of things in my hand that I would like to cast. The Lion Sash Goldfish is fastest if I get white. I think I am just going to save both of my colors from Wasteland, though, and make another cat. It's turn 5. My opponent can produce 2 mana now, and they don't have colorless mana, so that 2 mana is not actually meaningful. Send it. After no blocks. Ooh, it is a Dismember. Absolutely. My Ocelot Pride deals 4 damage this turn. I will eat a Wasteland from your graveyard. I will hit for 5 damage. This is lethal next turn. Alright, my opponent has an Ancient Tomb while at 5 life. Lotus Petal. Sure. The Ancient Tomb can be tapped for 1 mana, though, notably. I also just do have 6 points of direct burn in my hand, which is a whole nother problem. There is a Kozilek's command for X equals 2, making spawns and exiling my creatures. That's fine. Oh, they did this paying life. Sure. So now my opponent can have a follow-up play. That is a Thought-Knot Seer. If I top deck a land, I just kill them immediately. But I think it's probably correct to just Solitude this anyway. So we'll Solitude it, pitching a 1-drop that I can't cast. My opponent will gain 4. I will draw a card. So I will hit them down to 4. So if I draw a land, they are not dead immediately. But they could just die to Broadside. Yeah, so they take Broadside. Wasteland is insane. I don't know how to play this turn. Ancient Tomb makes colorless mana. Opponent's at 4. If I junk Yavimaya, that denies 2 mana. If I junk Ancient Tomb, that denies 2 mana and also colorless mana. But this is loss of life when I have Phlage. I think I take out Yavimaya. So eat that. Play this. Now my cats are horrifying as well. Any top-decked land will just result in death if my opponent taps Ancient Tomb. It must be another Kozilek's command. Alright, and the opponent just taps out there. Whatever they did was not good enough. GG's. Alright. So that went well. We went positive with this deck list. I'm not sure that I'm quite sold on it. I think the first thing that I would do is cut all 4 Aether Vials. I cut those in most of my matches. I did not miss them. I think you need more early game plays. I'm not sure what those are off the top of my head, but I think you just need more things to make Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride and whatnot better in the early game. I don't know if that's Mother of Runes. I don't know if that's Amped Raptor. Um, I in these shells, I really like the Mockingbird or Mockingjay, whatever it is, the blue clone, but I don't think it's worth splashing another color for when you're trying to Phlage. Without the Yorion in the sideboard, that like Aether Vial can always be ticking up towards for good value. I just don't know that Aether Vial is worth it. Like Legacy is so fast. I think you just need to be playing shit. I don't think you get to accumulate the value that Vial is doing. You don't have like fantastic mana sinks in the deck either. Like you don't have Rashad Port as just a 2-mana consistent mana sink that's in your deck, nor do I think the mana base supports it. You cut Vial, I'm not sure if you need to go up extra lands. My deck seemed pretty functional without them. Hardcasting Solitude's kind of tough. Sometimes getting the 4th mana for Phlage is a little tough. We are still a little red permanent light. Like you can try to play like a red 1-drop of some kind. You know, if a Ragavan style card was legal in this format, I think that's really what you want. Sideboard felt fine. I brought in a lot of the stuff. We don't have additional removal to bring in the sideboard, though, versus other fair decks. We just have, like, the 4 Swords, the Solitudes, and the Chainsaw. So, well, I guess, and Broadside. Broadside doesn't necessarily have the most food in this matchup, in this deck, though, especially if we cut Vial. I could see trying to change the sideboard in some way so that you end up with a couple of Path to Exile or other white removal spells of some kind. So, generally speaking, you know, thumbs up to the overall idea here. I think thumbs down to Aether Vial. Sorry, buddy. Gonna have to put you out to pasture. Go into retirement, Aether Vial. You've had a good run. Alright, folks, if you need some cards, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU to let them know that I sent you, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya.